Welcome back, everyone, to another edition of the Fatboyz Dynasty podcast, hosted by the Fantasyholics Podcast Network, coming at you live once again on that YouTube channel. Brant, I know we've had a little bit of a hiatus here, busy with holidays, busy with technical difficulties, busy with traveling. You and I were at the Atlanta Falcons game against the Bucs 2 weeks ago. So it's just been a whole, come apart here recently. I know the last episode we kind of got some playoff prep going on. And here we are in the playoffs. I know for me this year, I made playoffs in about 5 out of my 8 leagues on Sleeper, won it and made it my only ESPN league. I think I've got 2 playoffs left to go. So definitely a rough fantasy playoff stretch for me. But I know you've gotten our home league. You're getting ready to square off after your first bye week here. So it'll be still some fantasy stuff going on here. But nonetheless, you and I are coming at everybody today with a funner, lighter show, I guess you'd say. Completely objective. There's not a whole lot of facts to this show today. It's just a fun one. We're going over some fantasy awards for the 2023 season, Brant.
Yeah, absolutely. You talked playoffs. I made it in 5 out of 7 leagues. The 2 leagues that I had buys in, I'm still in. The other 3, I ran into a Sam Laporta buzzsaw, Christian McCaffrey, a Cooper Kupp buzzsaw. I ran into all the buzzsaws. It was a rough week as I was projected to be moving on and still playing in 5 playoffs and come down to getting blown out in 3. But yeah, this fantasy awards, it was a lot lighter, a lot nicer for me to be able to go through after a devastating week, and look at some of the names that have helped along the way. Some of the names that have moved forward. And at the end, I'm gonna have a little curveball for you too, just to see where your head's at. Just throw something out at you. But this is gonna be fun. We just want to do a fun episode and make sure we got back to you guys.
Absolutely, Brant. So without further ado, let's get into the award shows. Let's get the bib on.
And let's eat.
All right, Brant. So let's just jump straight into this. We're talking 2023 fantasy awards. Some of these awards are going to be a little eye-opening. Some of them are going to show a little bit deeper glimpse into who you and I are as fantasy folks. And some of these are just going to be downright obvious. So let's get into it. Let's start with a little bit of the lower tiered ones, not the great awards. We'll save the MVPs, things like that for the last. Let's start with one that's kind of lighthearted just to get into it. Tell me about your comeback fantasy player of the year, Brant.
The comeback fantasy player of the year, Kyron Williams of the Los Angeles Rams. He played in only 10 games last year, and he's played in 10 so far this year. He's at the running back 8 in 10 games, so he has missed some time, but he's averaging 20.8 points per game. He's been a guy that has been, when he's on the field, he's very, very consistent. He hasn't let you down. He's had one bad week, I think it was, and that was the week that he got hurt. Actually, no, he did not. The only time he's hurt you is when he wasn't playing. He's had 1 game under 10 points this season. This guy was drafted. He was drafted down in the top or at the bottom half of running backs. I feel like there was names like can't even think of some of the names that were around him when I looked at this. It was just his ADP was outrageous. He was a underneath 50th wide receiver off the board. So this is my comeback player. Everyone thought it was Cam Akers' backfield. Well, this guy just threw the whole curveball at you and said, nah, I'm breaking out and I'm coming back. So that's where I've got Kyren Williams out.
Yeah, Brant, I know that's definitely one of your favorite players. You've got to be just absolutely devastated at the end of the last season. You had several chances to buy low on Kyren Williams for guys like Hayden Hurst, 4th-round draft picks, and you completely punted on that with yours truly. And I also have to slap myself in the face because I did trade him for Dawson Knox on draft day. So there you go. My comeback player is a player that was kind of in some murky waters there for a minute, Brant. Was he going to be suspended? Was he not going to be suspended? And that's Alvin Kamara. This cat is back to RB5 currently in PPR standings right now. In some drafts, Brant, we did a dynasty startup this summer. I was able to grab him in the 19th round of the startup due to his age, the suspension. He didn't have great production last year, kind of had a drop off, big dip last year. Currently through week 15 right now, this dude's got 1,076 all-purpose yards and another 6 touchdowns to go along with that. He's got, I think I read 84 receptions on the season. So just another wonderful season for Alvin Kamara coming back to where he left off, basically. And we still got Christmas weekend for him to score 6 more touchdowns, Brant. So he's coming.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Kamara was a guy that I was shy on. I got him in one league and held on to him for a little bit. But, man, he just came out and showed what he can do in just a short amount of time.
Absolutely. All right, Brant, I'm going to let you pick the next award. You tell the folks where we're going to go next, and we'll go there.
I'm going to go with the waiver wire pickup of the year here because I had Kyren Williams in this. And then I said, let me switch this up a little bit. And I'm going to go with another running back. He's currently the RB23. So, yep, not the greatest, but he's a top 24 RB. So he's an RB2, and that's Gus Edwards, averaging 11.3 points per game, 11 total touchdowns on the year. And now he is solidified to being one of the best running backs in the Baltimore's backfield. Unfortunately, my favorite player in that backfield just went down to a season-ending injury. So I guess now in our Dynasty League, I'll be sitting with Mitchell and Dobbins and all their ACLs on my IR slot.
Lack thereof ACLs.
Lack thereof. But
yes.
Gus Edwards is a guy that he was drafted outside of the top 50 running backs and easily came off the waiver wires and has probably won quite a few games for some of the players that have picked up, some of the dynasty owners that have picked them up.
Absolutely, Brent. And the part about the Gus Edwards and the running backs in Baltimore getting constantly hurt, you and I both know it's like there ain't no conspiracy theory. Lamar Jackson is doing this because he has to be the best running back in town. J.K. Dobbins came in with all that talent. We couldn't have that. Then Keaton Mitchell was showing flashes. Lamar Jackson, they may or may not have slipped in soap on the shower. I don't know. We're just, we're trying to keep them out of town so Lamar can stay the best running back / quarterback in Baltimore.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Now, my waiver claim was probably a waiver claim for most of America, Brant. But for you and I, this was a guy that you and I talked about a lot in preseason. You and I were very high on this player. Totally did not like his running back mate in this team, and we knew it was only a matter of time. And that matter of time happened about week 9 is when Devin Singletary took over the Houston Texans backfield away from Dameon Pierce. And since then, he's the RB30 overall this season, okay, which is darn good. You're getting a top-end RB3, high flex appeal player from the waivers. From week 9 when he took over, Brant, to right now, he's running back 18 on the season in that 6-game stretch. So you're talking week 9 when he really took over, he had like 13 carries for like 30 yards, RB40 finish. So if you take that one away, even he's an RB1. He's had a finish of 7, 7, and 3 in that stretch. So this is a guy that, again, you and I thought it was only a matter of time, and it was only a matter of time. He took this backfield over, way more athletic than Dameon Pierce, and he's really put his stamp on the map. You're talking about a guy you picked up in the waivers probably week 10, give or
Mhm.
take, that may end up winning you some leagues here, Brant.
Absolutely. It was just a guy that you just had to sit. If you did draft him and you listened to the Fatboyz at the beginning of the year and you snagged him at this last pick in your draft and you just sat on him and waited, the time came. Yeah, we had to wait for Pierce to get banged up. But as soon as the Texans saw it, he is the best running back in town. He took over, and it was proof this week. They both were active this week, and Singletary by far led that backfield.
Absolutely. All right, so I think since I left off with Singletary, I'm going to move right into my bust, Brant. And it only makes sense that I talk about Dameon Pierce, because this is one of those trains that you and I have been like, nah, we're going to let that one go on by. And then we were like, man, did we miss out? And the train came back around and we thought about getting on, but we were like, I want to see it take one more lap around the track, right? And you and I are both pretty happy at this point that we didn't jump on the Dameon Pierce hype train. 394 yards from rushing this year, 86 yards receiving, 2 total touchdowns. This man is currently RB54, and I know he's missed some time, so that factors into it, obviously. But he was drafted as the 46th overall player off the board, Brant. He's not even the 46th best running back in this year's running backs at this point. He was drafted as the 17th running back off the board. So just to let that sink in for a minute, this guy's almost 30 spots 40 spots behind where he was drafted as a running back. And that's just the type of bust that you almost can't overcome unless you happen to get lucky and have a Dameon or a Devin Singletary or a Gus Edwards fall into your lap in the waivers, because you're talking about a late third, early fourth round draft pick here in Dameon Pierce, who's just absolutely been non-existent.
Absolutely. My bust, it's going to come as a shock to nobody. I went with Justin Jefferson. No, I'm just kidding. I did not take that easy little route out. I thought about it. I wrote it down. I went with another wide receiver, and that's Garrett Wilson. He was drafted as the 19th overall player off the board, 9th wide receiver off the board. And I understand it's nothing to do with the talent that he has. He is amazingly talented. It's the carousel of quarterbacks. You had Aaron Rodgers for like a half a play, and then Lord knows who else has been throwing the ball there. And he's right now, he's wide receiver 25. So almost 18 spots different, 17 spots different from where he was drafted, and overall 58th overall player in fantasy football. Garrett Wilson just didn't live up to the hype. You and me both, we absolutely loved him. When he first came out as a rookie, we were a little shy on it. Then we started watching training camp and really looking at film, and we both started like, oh, okay. And the talent is there. It's just he has to get a quarterback to throw him the football. And I hope it's Aaron Rodgers. I do. I hope Aaron Rodgers comes back this week, and I hope we get to see them two play together. I don't think he will, but I would love to be able to see this going into next year. The talent is there, and I hope for the best with him. I hope this bad year does make him fall in some drafts. Maybe he'll fall into the second round, fall into my lap for me a few times next year. But yeah, Garrett Wilson is definitely, the talent's there, but he's been one of the biggest busts this year, unfortunately.
Yeah, I definitely think you're 100% right. He's had some good weeks, but the upside's just lacking, just because the quarterback play is inconsistent. And who'd have thought going into this season that we'd be wishing for Mike White back in New York for Garrett Wilson? But to the Aaron Rodgers thing, I believe it was today he was on the Pat McAfee show and said he was like still 14 weeks away from being able to play football. So he kind of put the rumors to bed. Today. I believe it was today. I saw on Twitter scrolling through after work. But yeah, so I think we may have to wait till next year to see Garrett Wilson get a competent quarterback. And who knows with Aaron Rodgers, he may go on a darkness retreat and then decide it's time to hang it up. So we'll wait and see there. All right, Brent, I took us to the bust. You take me to the next one you want to go to here.
I'm going to go with Sleeper, just because I love talking about this guy that I have. He's currently the wide receiver 26. He was drafted outside the top 50 wide receivers, and he's averaging 13 points per game. That's my favorite sleeper for the last few years, Jacoby Myers. I love this guy. He's come out. He's done just fine with O'Connell there and Garoppolo. We all thought going there would be a downfall to him. It actually helped him out a little bit. And like I said, he's currently the wide receiver 26, so he's right outside of wide receiver 2 range. So your 3 wide receiver sets, you're starting Jacoby Myers. So this is one of my favorite sleepers. He always is my favorite sleeper, and I guarantee he'll be he's like the newer version of Tyler Lockett. Like somehow he'll be drafted outside of the top 50, but still finish inside the top 30 every single year.
Yeah, you definitely have been on Jacoby Myers, even sometimes when it wasn't worth being on the train. You were there, so much kudos to you there. But you want to talk about a guy who was an afterthought and then has exceeded expectations, Brant. How about Brock Purdy going off the board in single quarterback leagues as quarterback 19, meaning most of the time undrafted or around the 163rd pick off the board. This man is currently quarterback 4 in PPR leagues with 3,795 pass yards, 29 touchdowns to 7 interceptions. And I know as a football community, we're so quick to say, well, he's just a game manager. He's a product of his environment. It's all the weapons around him. It's the CMCs. It's the Deebo Samuels. It's the Brandon Ayuk's. It's the George Kittles. It's the Kyle Shanahan's. It's that great defense. He doesn't have to work. I don't care. If you're quarterback 4, that means you're putting up beastly fantasy numbers, and you are helping me win games. I know in our home league, Brant, the guy who owns Brock Purdy, it was an afterthought. I think he's only been putting them in his lineup for like the last 3 weeks here. So it's one of those things where it was like everybody kept waiting for the bottom to fall out. It's got to stop someplace, right? This wheel's going to fall off. It's going to come to a screeching. Not the case. This guy's planted it firmly in the MVP candidate or MVP race in the actual NFL, and he's putting up fantasy numbers, game manager or not. This guy has been an absolute steal. If you did draft him, if you rostered him, if you were able to pick him up off waivers, whatever, I don't care. This guy has been an absolute sleeper, Brant.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I hope the wheels fall off next week to this. I need the wheels to fall off. And yes, you are right. He started putting Brock Purdy in the lineup when Deshaun Watson went to the IR. And I think he may even started Kyler Murray that first week it happened. But yeah, Brock Purdy's been an absolute baller. I watched him play twice against the Seahawks. I've obviously seen some other 49er games. Yeah, he is a product of a system. Well, what a great system it is. Mm-hmm. What a great system it is for a quarterback. You're going to go from Mr. Irrelevant to possibly winning an MVP this year. And this week on Monday night, we get to see him play the Baltimore Ravens. We're going to find out how good this system really is. If he hangs up top 10 quarterback numbers against a defense like that, we can still say it's the system, but what a beautiful system it is for Brock Purdy to be in.
Absolutely. All right, Brent, moving on.
Hang on, one more thing. Obviously, it's not just the system because I don't see Jimmy G finishing as a top 5 quarterback in the time that he spent there. Who else spent some time there? Sam Darnold didn't do very well looking there, but I think he was only there for like a game.
Trey Lance.
Yes, it is a system, but you have to be the right quarterback in that system, and that's what Brock Purdy is. I hate saying that too. Oh, that bothers me so much because he's so young.
The future is very bright in San Francisco. Let's go down to the value spot because, first of all, as a fat guy, Brent, when somebody starts talking about value, I get all excited thinking about value menus at my favorite restaurant and stuff. And then I look down at the name that I have written here, and I can tell you I've been pretty excited about this name numerous times this year. It slowly started to taper off a little bit, but nonetheless, the value as a whole is there. And I'm talking about Adam Thielen, who is currently still, after like 3 weeks in a row of not very good production, the wide receiver 16 in fantasy. Mm-hmm. He's had 89 receptions this year, 870 yards receiving, 4 touchdowns. This guy's ADP, Brant, and I think a lot of it had to do with we didn't know who the number 1 was going to be in Carolina. We didn't know what the offense was going to look like. We didn't know what Bryce Young was going to be. He had an ADP of 134 overall. In 10-team leagues, this guy was getting drafted in the 13th round. Mm-hmm. He was the 50th wide receiver off the board. This guy has blown way past his value. If you got this guy in the 10th, 11th, 12th round of your draft, he has been the absolute steal of that draft. This guy is a guy that I still think – coming down the stretch in fantasy, you got to put him in. He had a decent little game against Atlanta. I want to say like 11 points in the pouring down rain when nobody could catch the ball unless you were a defender for the Carolina Panthers and Desmond Ridder was throwing the ball. But Adam Thielen, nonetheless, he's been very, very solid this year. He's like the dictionary definition of consistency, getting tons of targets, tons of receptions, and he's definitely helping some people make it to the fantasy playoffs, man.
Absolutely, he is. He's a guy that's been so much fun to throw a little dough at this year because they've kept his props so low, and he's done it time and time again. We talked about it on our live multiple times. But you talk about value. Let's just talk about a guy that was thrown into my trade last offseason, and I never thought it'd be anything. He was the 41st running back off the board, 130th player off the board, and right now he's currently RB number 2. That's Raheem Mostert. With all of the, it's the A-chain. Jeff Wilson's going to help out. Everything, anything, everything. It's still been Raheem Mostert taking over the backfield, and right now he's the RB2. So this is a guy you're getting in the 13th round. And he's your number 1 RB probably on your team. Luckily, I mean, he's carried the weight. He hasn't been banged up this year. He's played all games. And I guarantee he has carried a lot of teams to the fantasy playoffs.
Yeah, Raheem Mostert. It's funny because every Sunday morning when you and I do these live start sits, we have tons of people saying, "Should I sit Mostert or should I sit Gus Edwards? Should I sit Mostert or should I sit Rashad Bateman?" I don't know why I'm picking on the Baltimore Ravens here, but it's like low tier flex plays that they're asking about with this running back. And I'm not saying I understand it. There's so much doubt because it's like, man, is it just a hot hand or is he that good? And he's 174 years old, Brant. He'd be like you and I running out there taking 70-yard touches to the house and being part of the best offense in the NFL right now. It's just one of those things that it's like, how does this happen? Where did this come from? What are they drinking in the water down there in Miami? Because Miami living has treated Raheem Mostert very well. He's having the best year of his career. And I know everybody who was lucky enough to have him in fantasy. And yes, like you alluded to, you got him for an absolute bargain in a trade last year late. This is a guy that's definitely a league winner. He carried you to a second round bye in our home dynasty league. So yeah, Mostert is definitely one of those players that it's like cheap to acquire, and here we are. So yeah, it's definitely been a fun ride for Mostert owners, Brant.
Oh yeah, I was sending a second round pick or receiving a second round pick for Kyler Murray, and he's like, "Hey, I'm dropping this guy." I said, "You know what? Just send Mostert my way. We'll see what happens." And well, let's see what there's. That's what's happened.
All right, where do you want to go next?
Oh well, we got to. Let's go with the rookies. No, let's save the rookie. We'll save the rookie and the MVP for last. Let's go with the breakout. My breakout's a guy that I absolutely love. I wish I would have got more shares of him. I got him in my keeper league, and that's Rachaad White. He's currently he was the number 24th back off the board in drafts, and he's currently the RB4. There was multiple question marks going into that Tampa Bay offense. Who was going to be the running back? He had Chase Edmonds there. A lot of people thought it was going to be a 50-50 split between the running back and then the receiving back. And Rachaad White put that to bed, and he put it to bed early and said, "This is my backfield, not Keyshawn Vaughn's, not Chase Edmonds. This is my backfield." He's averaging 16 points per game right now. He's finding the end zone. They're getting him involved in everything. As we saw when we went to Atlanta, what did he come off the field for? Maybe 8 total snaps in that whole game. And it was a close game. So obviously they trust him. He was there on the 2-minute drill. I think to start it, they had Edmonds in, but then it was back to White. I think Edmonds spilled maybe 1 or 2 plays off of that. White's just been a guy. He's been so consistent this year and has done so good. And like I said, he was the last of the RB2s, and right now he's top 5 running back on the board.
Yeah, and a lot of that has to do with Baker's resurgence as well.
Mm-hmm.
Baker's getting him involved in the passing game. The passing game is actually kind of fluid, which I'm not sure I want to say this, but I think I almost have to. The passing game is probably a little bit better this year than it was with Tom Brady last year, just because Tom's arm was, it was getting to that point. And Baker's got an electric arm. I mean, you say what you want about Baker, but he definitely can put on a show. Ask the folks in Green Bay, Brant. I have another running back here, and it seems we've talked about this before. We talked about it on the Fantasy Holics flagship show when we were doing that one. I'm a sucker for running backs, and so it's no surprise here I am with another running back. I've got James Cook of the Buffalo Bills as my breakout player. He showed some flashes down the stretch last year, but nothing super crazy, right? And then this year they added Damian Harris in the offseason, and everybody was like, oh, wait a minute, is Damian Harris the guy? And then the season started, and James Cook had some value, and then they signed Leonard Fournette, and everybody was like, oh, well, here comes Leonard Fournette. He's going to come in and take all the work from James Cook. But James Cook has quietly put up RB7, an RB7 season so far in PPR formats, 968 rushing yards. So barring injury, knocking on wood here, he's going to get to 1,000 yards rushing. 40 receptions, 433 yards, 6 total touchdowns. I imagine he adds another touchdown or two to that before it's all said and done too, Brant. But here it is. Like I said, this guy's been doubted every step of the way. Josh Allen's always going to be the goal line back there. Fournette's there. James Cook's too small. He's never going to be more than a pass catching back. He can't run between the tackles. And here we are with him clearly stamping his name on that backfield in Buffalo. He's definitely made things really interesting. Joe Brady is the offensive coordinator down there, has made that offense fun again. And this running attack in Buffalo is no joke, thanks to that of James Cook.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Just been a baller. And it was so fun to watch him torch the Cowboys this past week.
And torch he did. All right, so I suppose it's my turn, and we're obviously going to save the MVP for last. So that means here we are going into the rookies. And it would have been really easy for me to go and say, like, just throw out one of my favorite names like Bijan Robinson or JSN or, Dalton Kincaid, guys that I typically like a lot. But instead, I'm gonna throw some appreciation to a guy that's making one of the most irrelevant teams relevant here, if you will. And I think the head coach has done some of that too. But CJ Stroud of the Houston Texans. First of all, I'm going to say I remember I was wrong, Brant. I sat here when you and I did our offseason show and we broke down Bryce Young versus CJ Stroud. I thought CJ Stroud couldn't make his progressions. He looked at his first receiver, couldn't look off coverage. And he's done all that and then some in Houston. He's made Nico Collins, Tank Dell, Robert Woods, Dalton Schultz, all these guys completely relevant. This is the best Houston Texans offense we've seen since D-Hop, Will Fuller, and Deshaun Watson in town. And he's currently the quarterback 10. That's with him missing last week, potentially missing this week too. 3,631 yards passing, 20 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. Again, another one. If in a dynasty league you pick this quarterback up, you now have your quarterback of the future, it would appear, Brant. Definitely a fun rookie. He's definitely going to be lighting the scoreboards up next year. Who knows? Maybe he'll be in the conversation for fantasy MVP next year.
Yeah, absolutely. He's been a star, and it is unfortunate to see him missing last week and possibly this week. I know I have enjoyed watching him play, as I was huge on the Tank Dell, and he made sure I was right on that one all up until Tank Dell got hurt. So I'm going to talk about another guy that for my rookie that I was high on. I thought I could steal him at the end of most of our rookie drafts. I thought he'd be decent in the pros. I did not expect this, and that's Puka Nacua. He's currently a top 12 wide receiver, averaging 16.5 points per game. How can you go wrong with this guy? And of course, just happened to burst onto the scene against the Seattle Seahawks week 1. And he's got 135 targets, 87 receptions, 1,163 yards, and 4 touchdowns. He's just a guy that's getting involved. Yes, he benefited from the Cooper Kupp absence, but it just shows that now Stafford has a second weapon there. And even Tutu got involved there. The Rams offense, we talked about how bad the Rams were going to be this year. And then, oh, wait a minute. I've got plenty of weapons there. And they're not afraid to use them. And Puka Nacua is going to be, in my mind, he's going to be a guy that will be talked about in the top 3 rounds next year, I would assume. It will take some offseason research to see if he can keep it up. And see what they add there. But I think he will be talked as a top 30 pick next year.
Yeah, I think it's only natural with what he's come out and done this year. I mean, it's to the point where we've got people questioning what Cooper Kupp's value is moving forward. Mm-hmm. So when that takes place, you've got to have a pretty special rookie, and he's definitely a pretty special guy. Especially with a name like Puka Nacua, who doesn't love that, Brant?
That's right. With a name like Puka, you have to be good.
All right, drum roll. Here we go. MVP. Let's talk about it.
MVP, the man that helped move me into a bye and allow me to at least play next week in the playoffs. Unfortunately, he had to miss last week, so I did get burnt in one of my leagues. And that's Tyreek Hill. He's the number 4 overall in scoring. He's the number 1 wide receiver. He's still chasing 2,000 yards, 24.8 points per game in PPR standard that he's averaging, one of the highest over the last few years. The man has just been a stud and has carried teams on his back into fantasy playoffs. And I hope he's still going after those 2,000 yards, because if he is, he has to step his game up over the next 2 weeks. So let's hope he is. And anyone that has him, I hope he is too, because he is going to hopefully carry you guys to the championship game for fantasy.
Yeah. So initially, when I was thinking about this MVP thing, Brant, I was like, it's obviously got to be Tyreek Hill, and I was like, who am I gonna pick for myself? Because I know Brant's never gonna let me have Tyreek. And I went and looked, and I was like, my goodness, how disrespectful of me to have forgotten about this man. Not really forgotten about him. I just never ever have had a chance to own him. And probably never will, and that's okay. I'll just sulk in the corner as the owner of this player wins championships in leagues that I'm in all the time. But CMC, Brant, is currently the number 1 overall scorer in all of fantasy football and PPR formats. He is going to get to 2,000 yards from the line of scrimmage, but he also gets to run the ball a little bit, so it is different. I understand. He's at 1,801 yards currently, so he's right on pace. 3 games left, shouldn't be an issue for him. Here's the thing, Brant. 20 total touchdowns for the San Francisco 49ers. This man is quietly having a historic season. Everybody's talking about the Tyreek Hill stuff because, I mean, it's that 2,000 yards for a wide receiver would be nuts. But you're talking about a guy who's probably going to have near 25 total touchdowns on the season, probably over 2,000 yards from the line of scrimmage. These are what fantasy dreams are made of. This is, I mean, if this doesn't scream MVP, I don't know what does. CMC, it just further buries the conversation for me. Brant, is that when you're in a startup league, do you take the young stud wide receiver in the first overall pick, or do you take CMC? The answer is you take CMC, number 1 overall player in fantasy football, 20 touchdowns, 1,800 yards from the line of scrimmage.
Absolutely. He does run into a tough matchup this week, but it's yet to be seen anyone that can really slow him down. Yes, the Ravens are a very tough matchup, but I expect a very good output. Even when he has tough matchups, he still comes out with a touchdown or a 5.
Yeah,
who knows?
Absolutely.
Yeah. CMC he's just that guy. When he's healthy, he's that guy. I don't care what anybody says. He is that guy. And once again, listen to me talk how great the 49ers are.
I get it. You're an undercover fan. It is what it is.
Undercover don't like them.
All right. You said you had one last thing you wanted to hit here before we get off of here. Try to
So I'm taking CMC out. Who is your 101 next year? If you get the 101, you cannot go CMC, because you kind of screwed me up when you said, well, this is your first pick, so now I gotta go, let's take him out. Who is your 101 next year? Right now, way too early.
It is way too early. Can I give an answer but hinge it on something? Like I'm going to say it's this player if.
Okay.
It's Bijan Robinson if Arthur Smith is fired. It's not a question to me. One of the best offensive lines in football for running the ball. He's a superstar freak athlete. We see what he does. When he's given the opportunity, he just doesn't get enough touches. He had like 8 touches against Carolina in a rain fest. I don't know why Arthur Smith insists on trotting out these bum players like Tyler Algier, who's not a bum. I'm sorry. Cordero Patterson, not a bum. I'm sorry. Just a little frustrated. I think it's Bijan Robinson if Arthur Smith's out of town, if they get a competent quarterback in. Those are 2 big ifs. So if those things don't happen for me, CMC's out, probably Justin Jefferson at that point. I think coming back should be a different quarterback in town too. So I don't know. There's question marks with a lot of these guys. Tyreek's talking about not wanting to continue much longer. If he gets the 2,000 yards this year, how motivated is he next year? I don't know. There's so many things out there. Kyron Williams, I would think, has to be in the conversation for top 5, especially with what he's done this year. I'm not sure I'm willing to put him in front of guys like Jonathan Taylor just yet. But yeah, I think the conversation has to be made. So,
okay. So that was like I said, you threw me for a loop when you said CMC had to be the guy. That's just kind of, I wanted to see what you're way too early. I know none of us have really sat down and done our orders or anything else. Mine right now, honestly, mine's Jamar Chase. I think Jamar Chase comes out and explodes next year. So I think Jamar Chase would be my 101 if I had the opportunity, but I never get that. So
here's the question I have for you. Let me throw you for a loop. So I don't care whether you want to name it a super flex, whether you want to name it whatever. Who's your first quarterback you're looking to draft next year? I'm talking, you're going to set the trend. You want that guy, you got to go get him. Who's your quarterback that you want for next year?
In Dynasty, it's CJ Stroud. He's my guy. I'm going after CJ Stroud. He's using his legs. He's using his arms. He's doing great things in Texas. He's moving that offense. That is mine. If you're talking in redraft, I'm going to throw you all for a loop. And I'm going to say Aaron Rodgers is a guy that I am going to grab early. You got to remember, I love to wait on my quarterback. So he's not going to be my first. He'll be my first.
Not Drew Lock?
No, I love Drew last night. He looked so good last night. But Rodgers would be a guy that I would be targeting. I know you said first quarterback off the board, but I expect Rodgers to have a killer year next year. We saw what the Jets were able to do with the ring of quarterbacks they had. Well, I could see them having an amazing year with Rodgers. So that would be a guy that I'll be targeting. I don't want to say that's my first quarterback off the board, but that is definitely who I'd be targeting later in drafts.
All right, fair enough. I'm sure there'll be more from the Fatboyz when it comes to, top 10s for next year, probably real soon following the tail end of this season. But
yeah, I'm ready to start looking at rookies.
Rookies they're on the forefront. I'm sure we've all got some guys that we already want to talk about, but we'll save that for a different day, Brant. As always, thanks for watching, everybody. Stay hungry
and stay fat, my friends.